The FBI announced indictments against 20 individuals, including 14 current and former Mississippi and Tennessee police officers, in a years-long drug and bribery conspiracy. Officers allegedly provided safe passage for cartel shipments across the state, reaching as far as Miami. Early morning raids in Greenville, Clarksdale, and Greenwood led to multiple arrests and the seizure of 92 kilos of fentanyl, $750,000 in cash, 15 rifles, and payroll records linking law enforcement to the cartel. Federal authorities say the operation dismantled a multi-state criminal network operating from within law enforcement. For years, law enforcement agencies had chased shadows along the Mississippi Delta, unaware that the true threat wasn't just across borders, it was inside their own ranks. Early one morning, the FBI announced indictments against 20 people, including 14 current and former police officers in Mississippi and Tennessee, exposing a conspiracy that spanned years and involved drugs, bribes, and betrayal of public trust. These officers had facilitated the movement of narcotics, ensuring safe passage for cartel shipments across state lines, reaching as far as Miami, while wearing badges always meant to protect the public. The quiet of the Delta was broken. FBI and DEA convoys rolled silently through Greenville, Clarksdale, and Greenwood. Headlights flashed warnings in the fog, and federal teams descended with precision, sealing entire blocks, kicking down doors, and asserting control over streets within minutes. The targets were more than simple dealers. They were enforcers, insiders, and facilitators. What agents uncovered went far beyond illegal substances. It was a systematic corruption of law enforcement itself. Sheriffs, deputy sheriffs, and local police were on the payroll of drug cartels, betraying public trust to protect shipments, guide deliveries, and maintain the illusion of law and order. The first raid took place at a modest house on Greenville's outskirts. A single explosive charge blew the front door off its hinges. Inside, agents found 92 pounds of fentanyl, $750,000 in cash, and 15 rifles neatly arranged on the kitchen floor. Of Bolivar County. This discovery revealed the depth of the betrayal. Those sworn to enforce the law had been facilitating crime for years, and the network was methodical, precise, and deliberate. As dawn approached, evidence tables inside the makeshift command post filled with cash, ledgers, disposable phones, and memory cards told a story of organized criminal enterprise. Each ledger entry, each payment, corresponded to a specific drug shipment, date, and route. The disposable phones confirmed it. Brief, transactional calls between cartel couriers and law enforcement officials communicating only encoded confirmation. Done. Go now. The financial trail traced thousands of dollars funneled through laundromats, used car lots, and small businesses across multiple counties, highlighting the cartel's deep infiltration of local systems. It wasn't sporadic corruption. It was a well-maintained, highly structured network. The command center's encrypted screen flashed the operational order. Execute raids across 3 counties, targeting 5 key locations in one synchronized assault. Convoys moved in silence, armored vehicles crawling along wet asphalt, helicopters overhead scanning tree lines and rooftops with infrared sensors, painting ghostly heat signatures in the darkness. At the first target, a tractor repair shop, agents deployed along a steel door. A breaching charge detonated, lighting the night like a lightning strike. Armed cartel enforcers, some tattooed with Jalisco insignia, fired from cover. Sparks flew as bullets ricocheted, but federal agents advanced in disciplined precision, neutralizing threats and securing the location. Within 40 seconds, multiple gunmen were restrained, the area cleared. The second target, an abandoned seed warehouse, proved equally shocking. Industrial pill presses operated in dim red lighting, producing thousands of narcotic tablets, while cartel guards opened fire from a narrow corridor. Agents returned controlled fire, suppressing the threat without civilian casualties. Inside, chemical residues hung thickly, highlighting the dangerous working conditions that had gone unnoticed for years. The third site was a local sheriff's office, quiet, seemingly normal. But within, officers had been complicit, surrendering without confrontation, hands raised behind their backs, exposing a betrayal that cut to the heart of local law enforcement. Finally, a riverside warehouse, the cartel's central hub was breached. Smoke grenades obscured vision as federal teams faced armed resistance, disabling attempts to ram exits, clearing corridors, and securing 2.8 tons of narcotics, enough to devastate communities if it had reached the streets. Simultaneously, investigators extended operations to Texas, where a multi-state human trafficking network operated with alarming efficiency. Intelligence traced the activity back to a foreign diplomat, Ambassador Alejandro Cruz Vega, and a former CIA director, Jonathan P. Reeves. Both had used diplomatic immunity and positions of influence to mask an international network of drugs, weapons, and human trafficking. It became evident that these individuals had not recently become corrupt. They had spent years cultivating a clandestine empire. Coordinated raids across Texas uncovered embassies and safe houses storing narcotics, chemical precursors, and human organs preserved for shipment to overseas clinics. Hidden vaults revealed tens of millions of dollars, evidence of the staggering financial scale of the operation. The aftermath of the raids revealed a devastating human cost that communities had endured quietly for years. Families recounted loved ones who had vanished without explanation, children who crossed borders seeking opportunity, teenagers who took late-night shifts only to never return home, and workers who disappeared after meeting seemingly legitimate recruiters. These were not isolated incidents, but pieces of a much larger coordinated criminal network that had preyed on the most vulnerable segments of society. For years, these disappearances were written off as routine, tragic, or the unfortunate consequence of life in precarious communities. Yet as investigators traced shipment records, financial flows, and encrypted communications, a disturbing pattern emerged. Medical examiner reports, when cross-referenced with trafficking routes and shipment records uncovered during the raids, revealed that deaths previously classified as natural, accidental, or unexplained were often linked directly to this sprawling criminal enterprise. Young men and women, immigrants seeking opportunity, and even longtime residents who trusted local employment offers were systematically targeted, exploited, and erased from their communities without warning or acknowledgement. Hospitals in affected regions reported surges in fentanyl overdoses, cases far more potent and lethal than anything previously encountered, with doses precisely calculated to maximize harm and avoid immediate detection. Emergency rooms struggled to identify patterns amid the overwhelming influx, and the sudden rise in synthetic opioids left healthcare providers scrambling to adjust protocols for treatment and reporting. Schools, too, documented an alarming increase in synthetic narcotics circulating among students, a crisis that had quietly infiltrated areas previously untouched by organized crime. Parents, teachers, and social workers were left bewildered and terrified as children in suburban neighborhoods began appearing under the influence of substances that were far more dangerous than traditional street drugs. These developments painted a chilling picture. The criminal network had moved beyond conventional trafficking, embedding itself into the very fabric of communities, turning neighborhoods into unsuspecting distribution hubs, and using every loophole available to exploit trust and authority. Social services and shelters began piecing together the patterns, uncovering that many of the missing or trafficked individuals had been lured under the pretense of legitimate employment, cultural exchanges, or educational programs, only to be coerced, intimidated, or forced into illicit labor and illegal operations. The network thrived under the protection of trusted titles and institutions. Investigators found that systemic failures, compounded by ignored warnings, fragmented reporting, and blind faith in authority, had allowed the criminal enterprise to operate virtually unchecked for nearly a decade. Whistleblowers, like Evan Marshall, who had initially detected anomalies in customs inspections, had their concerns dismissed or quietly buried. Evan, a low-level customs officer with no prior criminal or medical history, had noticed irregularities in shipments that seemed perfectly legitimate on paper, but were inconsistently weighed and documented. His courage in filing internal reports ultimately triggered the chain of events leading to the operation, yet his death, officially labeled a natural cardiac arrest, went uninvestigated. For years, his bravery remained unrecognized, a tragic example of the risk faced by those who question the system. The insidious nature of the network lay not only in its criminal activities, but in the way it systematically eroded trust within communities. People felt unprotected even in their own neighborhoods. Vigilance, once a shared community value, became a necessity for survival, as no one knew who could be complicit in the network. Neighbors, local authorities, or officials sworn to enforce the law. In the immediate aftermath of the raids, internal reviews were initiated across federal, state, and local agencies. Protocols spanning customs, law enforcement, intelligence, and medical oversight were thoroughly overhauled. Diplomatic shipments, which had previously operated almost entirely outside federal scrutiny, were subjected to strict weight and content audits. Interagency data sharing systems were revamped to ensure that no single report could be ignored or buried, and coordination between law enforcement and intelligence units became formalized through a series of new protocols. Medical examiners received updated guidelines to identify deaths connected to narcotics, chemical agents, or human trafficking, providing investigators with critical tools to link unexplained fatalities to larger criminal patterns. Community reporting channels were strengthened, ensuring that whistleblowers could report irregularities safely and that their concerns would be acted upon. Evan Marshall, whose observations had set the investigation in motion, was posthumously recognized. Though his life was tragically cut short, his courage had exposed a criminal empire that had operated in plain sight for nearly a decade, and his name became synonymous with vigilance, integrity, and sacrifice. In Dallas, Operation Night Veil became a hallmark of interagency coordination and precision in modern law enforcement. Delta Force operators, FBI hostage rescue teams, ICE investigators, and local tactical units coordinated in real time, executing a meticulously planned operation that rescued hostages, neutralized armed threats, and dismantled the central operations of the trafficking network. 15 hostages, including 6 children, were recovered from captivity, many of whom had been held in conditions designed to break both body and spirit. Evidence recovered during the operation, ranging from issued ledgers to passports and encrypted hard drives, mapped a sprawling multinational criminal enterprise. The documentation and digital records linked operations from Texas to Myanmar, Panama, Cyprus, and multiple points across the Western Hemisphere. The raid sent a powerful, unmistakable message. No badge, no title, no flag, and no position grants permanent immunity from the law. The collapse of the network forced agencies to confront their own shortcomings, rebuild trust with affected communities, and implement proactive measures to prevent similar exploitation in the future. The human toll of the network was stark. Communities had suffered in silence, many unaware of the machinery operating around them. Yet the resilience of institutions willing to act decisively offered a path forward. The operation highlighted the necessity of vigilance, accountability, and courage in safeguarding society from both visible and hidden threats. By sunrise, the streets of the Mississippi Delta and Texas were quiet, lined with armored vehicles, temporary command posts, and exhausted federal agents maintaining a vigilant watch. Arrests, seizures, and rescued hostages represented the tangible outcomes of the operation, but the true success lay in exposing a criminal network that had embedded itself within the very systems designed to protect the public. Operation Night Veil marked a historic turning point in modern law enforcement, demonstrating that justice requires unity, precision, and an unwavering commitment to ethical principles. The raids underscored a harsh truth: corruption grows in silence, and vigilance is the only reliable defense against its spread.